Hey everybody, you are now tuned into The Blackout, shining a light on Black excellence, activism, and culture. Blacked out by the majority on AfroVibes Radio, the #1 online internet radio station, with your girl, Tequelia. Today's special guest is screenwriter, producer, and director Rhyan Lamarr, and guest Bishop Eric Gaines. How are you both doing this afternoon?
Doing fantastic. Bishop Gaines is doing great.
Oh, is it Gaines? Okay, I'm sorry. I guess it looked like it was pronounced Gaines. I'm sorry, though. So tell us a little bit about yourself, coming from Chicago, and how you got into this industry.
The late, great Bernie Mac gave me my first ever job, ever insight into the industry, so I owe a lot to him, giving a baggy pants wearing do-rag guy from Chicago a shot when I didn't even know that I had a shot. It's amazing when people can see greatness in you when you can't see greatness in yourself yet. And so I owe a lot to him just giving me a shot. Moved to LA in 2005, actually with the script Canal Street. We banged on doors to 2016. The door finally opened. We brought the film back to Chicago, and the rest will be history.
Absolutely. And so what actually made you want to become a screenwriter and a film producer or director?
I've always kind of had a vision. I've always been real creative. And so it was kind of secondhand when not only I could start to depict, not only in film, but in music and create stories and poetry. And then to put it on a camera and then lens it, that to me is the ultimate combination of it, and just being able to tell stories. I think it's magical when you can when you can conceive something and see it out, and then actually see it play out, and then actually execute it and see it from start to finish. I think the only word for that is magical.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we've talked about previously on my show with some of the producers and screenwriters in the industry is that it's a great feeling to be able to watch a film and identify it within the Black community, because a lot of times other people from other cultures depict our culture and we have a negative stereotype about us, thugs or gangsters or whatever it may be. But instead of doing that, we've shown the elements of how we got to those places, what's causing us to still have a lot of the different things that's going on economically and socially within the community. So how have you taken all of that and put it into Canal Street to tell our narrative and our truth?
You want to take that?
Sure. One of the things that we have in Canal Street concerning the social and the economic movement, the social, if you will, in terms of how people connect, how the community connects, how people connect by way of their ethnic and diverse backgrounds, and that we are not nearly as segregated as people think we are. And we wanted to create that balance. On the economic side, it was imperative and important that we display the justice system and how, unfortunately, it is very impartial, where people of color deal with the challenges standing before a judge with $1 million bails and bails very high that they cannot reach. However, people who are the more affluent community have the opportunity to stand before a judge if they even get there, and then their bails are very low. There lies the economic challenges. The other economic challenges that you'll see in Canal Street that's a powerhouse is how it's a positive too, how we people of color can move up, and we definitely do. We go up the ladder, and you'll see it happen where Coley Stiles and his father, Jackie Stiles, are moving from one community to another. And they move their way up the ladder in terms of those economics.
Absolutely. Why do you find it so important to share these types of stories with your audience?
You see shows, like Blackish, Atlanta, Insecure, The Shy, these shows and these depictions of just minorities from a different light. We haven't seen these characters, although we've seen them,
Yeah.
We're now able, the reason why they're so successful is just I can finally really see myself on screen, and so when you're able to create from your wheelhouse, the city of Chicago is so diverse. We get plagued with negativity on the media, but there's so much beauty in the city of Chicago. And so we wanted to show beauty, that light that's kind of in the darkness. Canal Street, though it does surround around a murder trial, the end result is beautiful.
Absolutely. And being a black man in this world and also being from Chicago, how did you find yourself identifying with those characters, and how do you feel like it'll be a reflection or relatable for people that's from your community and community like yours around the nation?
You know, I think that people sometimes get it twisted that if you're from a impoverished area or a low income area, that, well, then you're hood or you know, and there are intelligent people that just happen to grow up in areas of society that's looked down upon.
True. But
But that doesn't mean that it's, you know, we get the negative connotation that we're a lesser or ignorant or do not know certain values. And so I think again, it's beautiful to be able to show that on screen and create something relatable for those people to say, you know what, that's me. I see myself like right there, you know, and it gives people hope.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell us a little bit, for those who don't know, what's the basis of the film? I know you kind of told us a little about the economics and the social, but for those who don't really know or haven't seen the trailer.
Got it. The movie surrounds around a African-American teenager that moves from the south side of Chicago to an affluent neighborhood in the surrounding suburbs of Chicago after his father gets a promotion. There is an incident that occurs, and all fingers are pointing at Coley Styles, played by Brashear Gray, when a star athlete is found dead. He is then found guilty and to proven innocent, not only in public opinion, but also in the world. And it becomes this mega oversaturated trial where Coley's father, played by Michael T. Williamson, is defending his son against the city of Chicago. And the prosecutor, played by Mekhi Phifer, is actually not only running for mayor, but also trying to put this man in jail. And it literally asks the question, in this world, most of us are seen guilty until proven innocent. And we find ourselves in those situations all the time, where there are certain crimes where two individuals can commit the same crime. One can be slapped on the wrist and the other one can have the book thrown at them. No bail where one has bail. And so we wanted to show a film that diversified and also gave an example of how it really is. You know, this isn't a one-sided film. So we didn't want to give any excuses to anybody where they can say, yeah, but that movie was for them. Now, this is a film that really paints the picture correctly and is unapologetic and doesn't make any excuses. And just really prayerfully will ignite a conversation that a lot of us, I feel, haven't had yet.
Absolutely. And in choosing Brashear Gray to be the main character, how did he fit that? How was it for you to be able to choose him for that role?
Man, Brashear is such a moldable actor. I was blessed to be able to work. It's always a blessing when you can work with thespians that are still figuring out how to mold certain things. And so he was very open to creating this character. People have seen him play Hakeem. People have seen him play Michael Bivins. And so you hadn't seen him play the character that doesn't come from money, that is still finding himself, that is still trying to find confidence, that grows up in a supporting family where a father does love him. You know, those are differences that people hadn't seen him, and he came to play. You know, and so, you know, working with Brashear was actually, you know, pretty refreshing when it came to what he did on set, when he came to play with these other actors.
Were there any times when y'all were on set where it may have gotten emotional because the scene may have gotten real, or a reminder of what we see on the news every day or just in our neighborhoods?
You know, 99.9% of the influence from this script came from real life things that I had experienced. I had a friend that is still fighting, locked up since 1998 for a crime he didn't commit. And so there's a scene, I don't want to give it away, but there is a scene in the film where I had to kind of take a moment because he told me what happened. He told me over the phone after he had already pleaded guilty to something that he did not based on the interrogations, based on some of the things that the police are taught to do. And I had me kind of shaking my head, when I was younger, that now I've come to understand that sometimes you don't feel that you have any rights when you're in that room being interrogated. You don't know what, and so that just kind of art, imitating life, sometimes had to step back. And then also just being a director and just seeing, like, the cast is amazing. So every now and then you have to, like, step back and be like, you got to get your stuff together, Ryan. Talking to myself, because you have, Emmy Award winning actors, on set with you, that have been a part of Oscar nominated films, and they believed in you enough to lend their talents.
Absolutely. And I know we hear the narrative so much in the media, same scenario, a young black boy getting caught up in a situation and either getting shot by the police or, like you said, getting guilty for a crime he didn't commit. I don't want you to feel like you did anything that was repetitive, but what made it stand out or be different from what we see every day on television that's really going to capture the audience's heart?
We wrote this in 2005. So first of all, there was like none of this, even not saying that. So we hear about these trials and these unfortunate incidences that have happened within the last 7-8 years. We wrote this, almost over 13 years ago.
Wow.
So we weren't being influenced by anything that was out. Also, we've always tried to look at things, from a perspective of, okay, we're not going to reinvent the wheel, but how do we spin it differently? So this is not about an African American that is involving with police brutality. This is about an African American that's being accused of a crime he didn't commit. We have not seen that yet.
I think the other thing to that is the balance that we bring to the film. The film is filled very carefully and deliberately with balancing out all sides of the views that comes to the table, from the ethnic backgrounds as well as from the professional and career backgrounds. You have pastors' views, you have the attorneys' views, you have the world's views. All of that is coming out very careful, whereas no one is seen as this is the only answer. As was mentioned earlier, the film brings you to conversation. And because it's family oriented, it allows not just the adults to have the conversation, but the children to also have the conversation.
Oh, did you want to say something?
I was going to say too, I think also something that separates our film from quote unquote other films, and we're not in competition with anybody, the social media element of the film. We get our news, I get my news from the Breakfast Club. I love, CNN, like anything I'm watching, I'm looking at it on my phone. So we reached out to the Breakfast Club, we reached out to Ricky Smiley, we reached out to Kendra G, and Mancow, we reached out to these people and made them a part of the film so that they are actually playing themselves, interacting with the trial, which is what we would do. When we kind of sat back, we're like, all right, what would make this even more accurate, like even more real? If this trial was happening, people would be talking about it. If there's not a trial that does not go by where the news, the media, and social media is not talking about it. So they are immersed throughout the film, commenting on this trial.
Do you feel like putting that in the film was necessary? Because people always say this isn't new what's going on. The difference is now we can all see it because the internet is worldwide. You can see something in an instant. Do you feel like social media is powerful?
I do feel like social media is powerful. I feel that it's powerful. I feel that at the moment right now, it's starting to get a little out of hand. We're at the point of no return. You can't turn it off. Sure. You can't monetize it. I don't mean from a financial standpoint. You can't just literally tell somebody turn your phone off now. How can you have kids that are being programmed now? That we were already programmed, but now it's in our pockets. We were driving the other day, and I said the word hotel, and it said there are hotels in your area. You don't know when your phone is listening.
True.
It's a powerful material, and it can be used on the plus and the negative, unfortunately. And with your question, do we feel it's powerful? The answer will have to be yes, depending on how a person uses that, that gift. The gift is wonderful. Now you're going to use it for the positive reason or the negative reason. Everyone has a microphone now. And the truth of the matter is, with that microphone, everyone has a voice.
And how did that feel that you had to, like you said, each perspective had to be seen? So you did probably have to use major media outlets that would say something negative in regards to the main character. How were you able to do that knowing that this young man wasn't guilty, but you had to write from a standpoint of how the others perceive us?
Well, here's the thing. He's being, first of all, he's being accused of a crime that he didn't commit. However, that's what we're saying.
Yeah.
But when we went in the room, I said, these are the facts. I didn't, we kept it real. How would you comment on a conversation? This is what happened. He was found, standing over the body. I mean, he was found standing over a dead body. Last person to see him. Blood on his hands. Neighbors see, that's all they see. So we were given that too. So it's just like, we wanted to get real reactions and real conversations in there, which is what they would do. Not everybody's going to agree. If something happens today in this room, it's not going to be 100%. Me and him don't agree on everything, but we can talk about it. We respect each other. We respect each other enough to actually talk about it. And so, any other way it would have been fake. It wouldn't have been real. You ever seen a movie and you're like, man, that wouldn't happen. That person don't talk like that.
Exactly. Well, I'm glad that you really took the real aspect of what we deal with every day. And even though you wrote it in 2005, it just comes to show that this is something that's been transpiring for decades.
Yeah.
And it came out at the right time and the right moment where we're in an era of trying to provoke change. But I want to get your opinion. How do you feel the change is going to come about? Because some people feel like we're at a standstill. We protest for a little bit, but the conversation goes on until the next incident happens and we forget the last. What do you think can be the change in that?
Change happens when you get involved at the end of the day. It's almost like if you don't vote, you don't have a voice. If you don't vote, you don't have the right to complain. So either you get involved in the change and be a part of the change by whether it is and being consistent in that part. That's the only way we're going to make things happen. If you sit back and become relaxed, then whatever is being done, you have no other choice but to accept and digest it. If you don't like what you see, you get involved for the right reason and for the right cause to help steer that car down the right road. It's almost like what happened with Trayvon Martin. Many of us got very upset. We had the right to be upset when that incident occurred. But Trayvon Martin's attorney made a really powerful statement on the news media. He said, I'm doing my job. My job is to be an attorney who happens to be a defense attorney for that situation. But he said, if you want to do the right thing beyond what you're doing, let's move for the change of policy, not the issue as much as change the policy. Then we can change what happened here today. And that's the whole idea about change. We don't like change, but change has to take place because the only thing that's constant is change.
Exactly. And last question before we go to break. In the film, do you provide a solution that we can use in real life? Like you said, with changing policies, did you offer that in the movie?
The power of forgiveness and the power of conversation. The idea and understanding that forgiveness is not just for the person you are forgiving, it's your personal healing so that you can begin to move to your next level. And then the idea of having conversation, that it's okay for us to converse, even if we have different views of how we see things. It doesn't mean we're against each other. It just means that we have different brains, different frames of thought. And now we can understand why we think the way we think and respect each other on those levels and find out how we can just make it work.
Absolutely. Well, we have to go to a quick commercial break, but when we return, we'll finish our conversation. Until then, you are listening to The Blackout, shining a light on Black excellence, activism, and culture on AfroVibes Radio with your girl, Tequelia. Quick break. All that talking. That was really good.
Thank you. You were good too.
And so the last 6 questions is from Miss Berry, so I'll make sure I ask.
You got it.
So is this a movie that I'm gonna cry while I'm watching?
Maybe.
everybody, you're now tuned back into the Blackout, and we are still currently in the studio with screenwriter, producer, and director Rhyan Lamarr. And so to continue our conversation off the break, we were just talking so much more in depth about a lot of different things that y'all get to join in on. But one of the things I want to ask you is, what should people expect or not expect from this film, Canal Street?
I think my executive producer over here, Bishop Eric
Mr. Gons or Gaines. I'm sorry, he told me earlier I didn't get it correct, you know what I'm saying? So I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Bishop Eric Gons, one of the executive producers for our great movie, Canal Street movie. People should expect to come to the table to experience what it is to see every view being represented in the film. The deliberate act of choosing actors and actresses that know how to display their gift and talent, forget about their background, and then deal with the truth. Forget about where they've come from and deal with the film. And then every ethnic background can look up and say, I'm in a film. Wow, they represented me. They represented the Asian community. They really represented the Hispanic community. They really represented the African American community. They got us all. Even the Indians are in the film. This is awesome. I don't remember seeing this. Usually it's just one-sided. That's one of the many things that they should expect to see. And then expect to see the truth coming from various perspectives. And that it's okay. We don't have to be angry because it's my truth. We can have a conversation because it's just the way I see it.
Absolutely. Like you just said on the break, it's not a black film, it's a film because it is diverse and it gives you a perspective of everybody. And with that being said, as a creator, what do you hope your viewers will take from this film?
That you can make a universal film, that you can raise the bar and create something that is unique and different. You don't always have to create things that are similar. People always think about it from music, like you need that single, you need that, that song about love. It's like don't be afraid to step outside of the box, because when you step outside the box, you get Atlanta. When you step outside of the box, you get these films and these beautiful TV shows that are out there, and so I hope that people can see that there was an independent film company with no money that knocked on the doors of Hollywood and was able to raise the bar in the independent community and just in the film community as a whole.
Absolutely. And how do you feel about the film breaking into Houston's market with Very Dynamic's second annual Wrongful Convictions Awareness Event?
We are excited about that. Very Dynamic has been fantastic in the presentation of the wrongful convictions movement here in the Houston area. The idea that she saw the vision out of Canal Street movie and invited us to be a part because of how and what the content of this movie brings to the table has just been great. We're hoping that this will be an impact again for conversations in the judicial community, a conversation for the people of color, for everyone within any type of litigious settings in society would realize how important that this movie is going to help to cause even our police department to say, you know what, maybe we need to look at this again. Congress people will say the same thing. Mayors, political officials will all say this is a movie all of us need to sit down for Houston and the nation, and then eventually the world.
Absolutely. And last but not least, tell us what type of activism do you feel like Canal Street represents?
I'm going to let you take that over.
The activism, more than anything else, represents the justice. Justice on trial would be a good way of looking at it, to recognize the balance that's needed. It says, make it be fair for everybody. We the people represents we the people. It's important that the activism there wakes up the truth inside of America and make America look again. What are we doing? What type of legacy do we really want to leave? Is it just a legacy for one race, or is it a legacy we need to represent the melting pot that we know we really are?
Absolutely. And Mr. Lamar, before you go ahead and let us know how they can learn more about the film, catch the trailer, when is it coming out, everything. We want dates so we can make sure we're there and we're supporting you come January.
Support.
This film will hit theaters in America, worldwide, or statewide, 1/18/19. So that is January 18th, 2019. That is Martin Luther King weekend. And please come out and check this film out and support. You can follow us on all social media platforms at Canal Street Movie, hashtag Canal Street Movie, just how it sounds. And another shout out to our other executive producer, Kevin Mullins, who is out there right now fighting the storm out there in Florida. So we're keeping everybody in Florida lifted up. We're keeping everybody in our prayers out there. And you know, this film is just about coming together. You know, we will not necessarily. This film will not necessarily be the change, but we pray that it will be about the conversation that comes out of it, that can be a part of the change.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for coming on my show and sharing your story about being in the industry as a Black filmmaker. Don't want to say Black, but it's okay because you know you're a representation for us, but as a filmmaker and just telling the story that needs to be heard. So we do appreciate you. And I'm going to make sure we support you along the way.
Thank you.
As for everybody else that has tuned in, thank you so much for tuning into The Blackout, where we always shine a light on Black excellence, activism, and culture with your girl Tequelia on AfroVibes Radio. Make sure to check out our Facebook and Instagram pages at The Blackout AVR, and to stay up to date on our previous discussions and future events, please visit AfroVibes Facebook and Instagram at AfroVibes Radio, Twitter at AfroVibes Radio with an S, and lastly, listen to us online at www.afrovibesradio.com, or simply download the AfroVibes Radio app on the Apple or Google Play Store. That's the end.
All in one breath.
You got that.
It'd be so much to